Join me as we talk all things true crime.
Made contact and shattered.
Liberty, a missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and those of the mother have went for a walk. Came home, now they can't find her. They've been dealing worse.
Turn it over to another agency. Let's get some help.
Where are your kids? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say? You're over here in Hawaii? Chad, where are Lori's kids?
4 were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds.
Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Let me know if the audio is good before we start into all the visuals and visual depiction of the trial last week. Sorry, trying to get the words out. It was a lot to kind of take in and a lot to process. Just waiting on the okay from the moderators in the chat that the audio is good. Okay, audio is good. Thanks for being here, everyone. So like I said, there's a lot to go through. There's a lot to process. I've got the highlights from the first week of trial, all combined in one video. So obviously, there's a lot to go through. I've got some notes as well that I kind of want to go through in addition to these visuals. And the visuals are going to consist of some testimonies, text messages between the victims and Lori and Chad, as well as just everything that we learned. Lots of Zulema stuff. Now with Zulema, I don't know if anyone listened to her, but there was a lot of dead air and space like in between her answers and a lot of etc. So I went in and edited all that out so we can hear Zulema in a more streamlined fashion. So I hope you guys like what I've put together. Hit like if you haven't done so yet. And thanks everybody for being here. I'm just going to jump right into it. So let's get started, guys. And like I said, I will pause and we can go along together and chat. I'll reference the live chat speaking, and everyone watching on replay, thank you so much. I've also got some notes that I want to kind of go through at the end of all the visuals. So thanks for being here. Hello, Delana, Marshall Dove, everyone who's joining, I see you.
Welcome to ATS News.
When their hands touched, he felt a shock pass through him and his heart started beating fast. He had glimpses of them walking dusty paths together, and he realized they had been married during the life of Jesus Christ.
Now, this is a novel, and thank you, AJ, for becoming a member. This is a novel that Chad wrote, and it's inspired by his love for Lori. It's very corny. Anytime I hear sort of scripture being mentioned mixed in with these love like narratives, I'm just very weirded out. I don't know about you guys. For anyone who knows more about his other books, I know very little about his books, but I'm curious, is this the only one that has sort of a love story mixed in with it, or are they all kind of like scripture mixed in with love?
And they had been very close to him. At this time, their spirits could not be restrained any longer, and a long-awaited makeout session took place in that lobby. This was manifest in the mortal world to James and Elena through the scientific phenomenon known as loin fire. As they talked, James had a burning desire to make love to her, but he wasn't sure she felt the same way. The erotic tension continued throughout the afternoon. James could only think of her. His desire for her was indescribable. Thankfully, she had worn 16 layers of clothing to survive the 80-degree weather, so he was not fully aware that she truly had the body of a goddess. Her dimensions were exactly what he had always fantasized about, but that revelation would have to wait a month.
Yikes!
I just love Vinny's reaction there at the end. It's so corny. Like, I can't even believe it. And I'm sure you guys heard the text message that they read in court where it said that Chad was texting Lori and he said, I feel like I'm in a Harry Potter novel and I have to go back home and When I'm out with you, I'm on all these exciting adventures, but then I have to go back home and it's just like, what? And how is Lori eating this up?
Logan, I can never come up with this.
In court, we learned that there was evidence that Charles had reached out to Tammy and confronted Lori about the affair that she was having with Chad Daybell. It's truly sad how you can see how devastated Charles was to hear of the affair and how much he really did love Lori and wanted to get her help.
When Charles figured out what Lori was up to, sleeping around with Chad, the leader of the cult, this is what he wrote to her. Is he with whom you're having an affair? Trying to destroy another family? You're evil. I'm going to talk to Tammy in person if I have to. I have emailed and texted her.
So, just to add on to this, now he just said to Lori, "You're evil." You know, so that's coming from her husband at that moment in time, calling her evil. Of course, he stumbled upon her having an affair, so that was the nicest thing that I think he could have called her. But in the same sense, when you think about the crimes that take place and who really is the evil one, you know, Chad or Lori, that's where I'm really struggling. And that's where I kind of wanted to say I need to backtrack what I had said in our previous live stream, which was last Monday. I said last Monday that I felt like maybe it was Lori who was the more manipulative, more of the schemer. But the more I got to see things through the trial and the more I got to hear from Chad, especially his blessing that he did with Alex Cox and just how creepy it is, I need to just walk back that I think Lori is the more manipulative of the two. Like, I really am at a loss of like which one is actually the diabolical, like masterminder. Like, what do you guys think? And thank you so much, Tom N. I'm so glad you're here. He said, I see it seems crazy that she was smart enough to get away with multiple unalivings, but gullible enough to fall for Chad's crazy ass claims of past life. I don't understand that either. Like, that's sort of like along with what I'm saying right now. Like, what part of Lori is just detached from reality? Whereas Chad seems to be very grounded in reality, but then enjoying like this whole fantasy life that he's like created through his books. And then like, he's like transitioned it into real life. I don't know, guys. And then hearing, okay, Carol says both, Amber, twin flames, both destruct, wanted money and fame in their creep group. Yeah, I know. It really is like the perfect storm of them meeting. Hi, Shay. It's good to see you. It's just so crazy. Like when we hear Zulema talk about and Melanie talk on the stand about Lori aggressively, you know, flirting with Chad when they had first gone to his conference, etc. And it really does paint Lori as like this man eater, right? I mean, she's going after her fifth husband. She's gone through all these other guys. At the time, in the beginning, we learned from Kay, which we'll hear in this stream as well, that, you know, Charles was very much trying to work things out with Lori, like to the point where, you know, she was gone for almost 2 months, basically. And then he welcomed her back with open arms, like hoping that it was going to work out. It's just sad. Yes. I'm just answering this question real quick. Did Charles find out about the email that Lori sent to Chad impersonating him the day after she sent it? Yes, through text message or email, one of the two. It was read out in court, but yeah, Charles was pretty much like, and what is with this fake email? Like, I think he said it's fraud. He's like, you contacted him pretending to be me. Like I needed a ghostwriter, et cetera, et cetera. That's fraud. And it's like, oh my gosh, this poor Charles. And then at one point, remember in his text to Lori, he says something about, it seems like you're trying to kill me, or maybe that's your plan or something. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's just so ironic, the stuff that he was saying and foreshadowing. It's crazy. And hello, everyone joining chat. I see you guys joining. Thanks for being here. Hit like if you haven't.
Your game is up.
You accuse me of infidelity, but it's you who have been having an affair. It just keeps killing me. Maybe that's your goal. The fact you will continue to go to the temple after all you've done shocks me. There really is something wrong with you. I really don't want to do what I have to do, but you have to be exposed for what you really are. I apologize to be the one sending this, but something has to be done. I feel it's best if I shed some light on this issue.
Now, they are obviously reading the email that Charles sent to Tammy Vallow or Tammy Daybell. They did say that they didn't have 100% confirmation that she read it. Like it through the metadata, it did seem like it was like looked at and maybe deleted, but I'm under the impression she read it. What do you guys think? It was sent successfully, that's for sure. The reason why I just am, feeling like she definitely read it was because at some point they spoke about how, I think it was Melanie spoke about how Tammy became suspicious of Chad and Lori. Something was going on between them. And, that was 2 weeks before she died. So right around the time that she became suspicious was the same time that Chad and Lori started telling their little inner circle, Tammy, she's turning dark. So right around the time that Tammy was getting suspicious of things, suddenly she turns dark.
The subject line in the email is your husband and my wife, and the body of the email reading are having an affair. Her name is Lorivallow. I've got her definitive proof if you care to see it. Contact me and I'll share it with you. It's devastating, I know.
As soon as they started questioning her or, just thought something suspicious going on, all of a sudden that person became dark or a zombie.
Did they deem Charles a zombie?
Yes.
Did Lori refer to Tammy Daybell as a zombie?
I believe so.
Did she refer to Tylee as a zombie?
Yes.
Did she refer to JJ as a zombie?
Yes.
Says I'm Nick Snyder. I've taken over Charles' body. And Charles has been killed. I'm going to kill you. You're murdered today or tomorrow.
And then Chad texted this one to Lori. Tammy is very close. Her levels have fallen steadily since.
So this is after Charles was killed, this text message from Chad to Lori explaining, Tammy, she's turning dark.
Hiplos, who's Charles, since Hiplos left, it is encouraging.
The state also said Tammy died at the hands of another asphyxiation.
Melanie Gibb, Lori's former best friend, of course, testified and gave much detail about the scale of light to dark that Lori had shared with her and how the children had become dark and that they were deemed zombies, as well as Tammy Daybell.
I asked her what happened to Tammy, and she says that she had a dark entity in her, and they had to do what they could to get that spirit out of her.
As a result of your investigation, was the decision made to exhume Tamara Daybell's body?
So they, spoke with Melanie Gibb, which, by the way, has been nicknamed Melanie Fib in the community. Now they're going to speak with the detective who was working Tammy's case. And he's going to describe, why he felt the need to exhume her and why things started becoming suspicious. And one of the reasons why things kind of was a red flag for law enforcement was Chad's quick marriage and, moving on so quickly with Lori.
Yes, she was healthy, her age. There was no sign of heart or blood pressure. And, with her husband being with another lady so soon after.
No comments.
Details about the items found in the search warrant was very interesting to hear.
Detective, can you describe what you found in State's Exhibit 8A?
This photograph is a picture of a ghillie suit. A ghillie suit is something that you wear if you want to camouflage yourself. If you're laying out in a field, you put that over the top of you to blend in with the brush or whatever the environment is. several different magazines used to hold ammunition, different caliber of guns. There's also 2 suppressors or silencers that you use to put on the end of a gun to keep it quiet when it's fired. This was also in a tub, several rounds of ammunition, different caliber of weapons, just a lot of ammunition. And the thing that caught our eye with the rifle was the end of the rifle is threaded for a silencer or a suppressor.
What did you observe in States Exhibit 8H?
Those were knives that were also located in the vicinity of the rifles as well.
States Exhibit 8I?
That was also a handgun located inside the garage. There was longer grass and weeds that were longer than about a 4x2 section where there was shorter grass and just a little bit of dirt showing. So initially, that's what caught our attention. The ERT team removed the top layer of soil. It began to expose 3 large white rocks, and at that point, there was a strong odor that was a decomposing body. Under the 3 large rocks, there was 2 pieces of wood paneling.
JJ was.
So that's the detective kind of describing what they had stumbled on. So, hi, Titanium Belt. It's good to see you. Those pictures were just pictures, like stock photos I found of what the detective was describing. Unfortunately, like they didn't release any of the evidence photos. Have you guys seen them? Because typically, like, you know, once the day in court is up or whatever, at least with other trials we followed, they were releasing like the pieces of evidence that were published. But no, those were just stock photos of everything that he was describing. And I didn't add in the other things that they had found, but you guys already know. I mean, they found trash bags. I'm assuming that we're kind of matching the ones that were found at the grave sites, but I don't know if that's what they were kind of alluding to. Marshall Dove, yes. The mask bothers me still. They found. Anyone else? Yes, I agree. It was like what? Like a Halloween, kind of like a creepy, I don't know. When Tammy was shot at, like by Alex, didn't she say he was there was a masked man? Or was it just she got shot at and she didn't know? Either way, I agree that the Halloween mask that they found is super weird and creepy. Tom N says maybe she was simply a master manipulator of men. I just can't get how they got away with 7 unalivings over 5-year span without ever getting caught. And the thing that is like crazy to me is, okay, so we hear from, I think it was Melanie. Yes. Spoke about how one time they were all there. JJ was, just being a kid, and maybe he was acting up in some way, shape, or form, but Chad had taken him upstairs to talk, came back downstairs. JJ's neck was all red. And Chad gives some excuse or something like that. So we can assume that if that witness account from Melanie is true, that Chad put his hands on JJ in an aggressive manner, enough to leave a mark. So then it got me thinking, okay, so then was Alex not the one that killed them all? Now it's to the point where I'm like, it's possible that Chad physically killed, JJ or Tylee or both. I'm just very much troubled by the fact that, Melanie accounted for an incident of, physical abuse on JJ. And Tom, and yes, to follow up with your master manipulator of men, I definitely called her a man eater earlier in this stream. And the thing that kind of stood out to me is, this is her 5th husband. Never once did she have to get rid of her other children. Remember, she has that older son, Colby, as well. And she's been married numerous times, even with having to raise him. So for me, I look at this incident now and the fact that she meets Chad, and Charles comes out saying very openly that she changed more so when she met Chad. she became very much more extreme in her religious views and, convictions, and beliefs in general started to change. So I just am like really confused, and I'm hoping you guys can help me kind of iron this out. She never once had a problem getting a man with having children before. She meets Chad. Chad puts his hands on JJ allegedly. And, Chad's coming up with all these light and dark stuff. And what do you know? All Lori's children are dark, besides Colby, who's grown enough to not be around. So I'm just very much like, okay, so what happened this time around? It's like Chad is like something that's new this time. He's the fifth husband, but yet he's got a problem, it seems, with her children. Anyone else? Sweetie Pie says, I think it was her, not Chad. And that's how I felt last week before the trial started. I was like, no, this woman, Chad was just this boring father, husband who got excitement out of writing his books and thought he was something special with the books. He never would have done this. But now I'm like, I'm not so sure I'm ready to write Chad off as that innocent, especially after the blessing. But I don't know, guys. It's very early on. There's still a lot to process. So I could change my mind. I really don't know which one is the more evil at this point. But we do hear, and it does seem like Lori was the one who went after him immediately. But think about it. If you're Chad Daybell and this woman, Lori, is aggressively flirting with you and like giving you the time of day. I mean, I just don't think that Chad ever got that attention from anyone else, I mean, besides his wife, but that was his first girlfriend, his first relationship, like it just makes me wonder how desperate Chad might have been for something exciting in his life. I mean, if he's comparing himself to Harry Potter when he's not with her, like what?
Found in a shallow grave wrapped in garbage bags with duct tape wrapped around him.
Are you okay? They're searching the property.
The house right now?
Yeah.
What, are they in the house?
No, they're out in the property.
Are they seizing stuff again?
They're searching.
Folded about chest high.
Detective, can you lift that a little bit higher so
Now, this is a former deposition of the detective as he describes the grave that he found JJ in. This wasn't from last week in court, but I wanted to add it to kind of add context to everything that he did testify last week.
let's see.
Folded like this, chest high. He had duct tape continuously wrapped from elbow all the way around his arms, over his hands, all the way to his right elbow. Several layers of duct tape that were tightly wrapped.
While Tylee's remains were charred, the state says you'll hear it described as bone and tissue. That's what was left of Tylee.
This is a call from and paid for by Lori.
Glad you called. So, we'll see what transpires. What? Yeah, right. Right.
Just to keep him protected.
So again, we're going to get into Kay Woodcock's, JJ's grandmother, also known as Charles' sister. Her testimony will be coming up after this short clip. This little clip obviously is a former court hearing because we see Chad in the courtroom and cameras in the courtroom. But this adds context to everything that Kay is going to tell us in her highlighted clips that I've put in. This is Lori pretty much claiming that JJ is safe. This was a secret recording that Melanie Gibb made. She did come out saying that she pretty much made this recording to prove that she had nothing to do with the children's disappearance. She was obviously concerned about their whereabouts, but this was pretty much to just cover her own butt. But either way, it's an interesting call, and I think it's very damning for Lori.
We'll keep you protected.
And keep everybody else.
I appreciate that. Well, I was wondering why you told the police why he was with me.
just needed to have somebody so I wouldn't have to tell them where he really was if they were going to tell Kay where he is.
Oh, yeah. So do you think it's like your family, or like your family, your dad, or those
my
people?
Family, well, not my whole family, but as you know, most of my family is working against me and with her, basically.
Yeah. Is JJ safe?
He is safe and happy.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
And you indicated that that the state asked you, or Mr. Wood asked you, about why you became concerned about the whereabouts of JJ, and you said because Lori didn't want him anymore. Is that right? Did you remember saying that?
Yes.
Okay. And what led you to believe that Lori did not want JJ anymore?
Because when a mother leaves their child, she left her husband and she left her child for 58 days, and I know it was 58 days because Charles counted every day and would tell me every day. She never reached out to JJ. She didn't reach out to Charles. Out of 58 days, I probably was with him well over a month.
So more than 30 days?
Yes.
And during those 30 days, you didn't hear from Lori?
No.
So they were going to get back together?
Charles was hoping, but Lori was nowhere around.
Okay. And that was in February?
Yes, he just couldn't go through it at that time.
And at that time, Charles had taken JJ with him to Houston, right?
At the end of March, yes.
The end of March?
Okay, yes.
Is that right?
Yes, but Lori did pop back up like March 28th. We were in the middle of packing him to move, and she came walking in the house like she hadn't been gone. And
it's just so sad to hear Kay speak about, what she had witnessed as far as Lori and Charles' relationship falling apart, and how badly Charles wanted to get back with Lori, and the fact that she walks back in when they're moving and acts like, she didn't skip a beat at all with Charles, etc. And it just reminded me of another part in Kay's testimony where she speaks about when she first met Lori and how close they were at first. And even when they went time without talking, once they met up again, it was like, they never skipped a beat as far as they would just pick up right where they left off. And it just made me think more about how much of a chameleon and how manipulative Lori is, not only on men, but I think that she knew, think about when you date and marry somebody, you obviously have to meet their family, their sisters, their brothers, etc. At that point, when she met Charles, that was her fourth husband. I mean, she'd pretty much mastered like squeezing into a new family and fitting in a new role as a wife and in-law. So it's just very telling to me how charming, so much like a typical narcissist that Lori really is.
And she was yelling at Charles to, why did you take JJ, and what are you doing, and why are you moving, and just, it was ridiculous. It was, anyway, yes.
And you recorded that conversation?
I did.
Yeah. And that was a private conversation between Lori and her husband at the time?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. I was in the next room. Her friend Melanie Gibb was in the next room, and we could all hear it.
You were in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Right? And they were in another room?
They were right there in the dining room.
Okay. And so Charles ended up moving to Houston, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that Lake Charles wasn't a good place for the schools that JJ would need to be in, and so that it was decided that he was going to live in Houston because that was a better place for him.
Correct.
And you said that since Charles had to work a lot, you were going to go to Houston to watch JJ while Charles was off on business trips and whatnot?
Yes, or we would get him and bring him home too, just whatever worked best for us.
We also heard from Zulema, who was Alex Cox's former wife.
Was Ms. Vallow with you the entire time after she met Chad Daybell?
So we're going to hear obviously from Zulema, who was married to Lori's brother, Alex. That was an arranged marriage made by Chad and Lori and their little cult. So this is just going to get very, I don't know, strap on your seatbelts, I guess. We're going to take a little ride to Fantasyland because Zulema is just going to take us through, what was going on behind closed doors. Again, I tried my best to edit out all the pauses and the ums from Zulema, so hopefully this is a little bit more streamlined. It's just highlights, so it's not her whole testimony, obviously, but there will be a part where she kind of describes, meeting up with Lori and having lunch and what was discussed there. So just listen, and thank you all so much for being here. Hit like if you haven't, and thanks again for chatting with me in chat. I'm looking at chat while this plays, okay?
No, she spent a lot of time at Chad's table.
You were able to observe them together?
Yes, they were talking with each other, and
when you say talking, how did they seem to interact based on your observations?
at first it was just regular talking, and then it was obvious that Lori was very flirtatious towards him, very giggly, and putting on the moves on him.
Did he talk about any of your prior lives in terms of how you passed away?
He said that had come to the earth. He said that I had been Lori's daughter, and during that life, that I had been killed at a very young age, at age 14, that I had been raped, and then that my body had been dismembered by the Lamanites, and I was killed at the same time that Lori was when she was my mother during that life.
Thank you so much, Pizza Chemist, for gifting memberships. I appreciate you so much. So this is the part that I get, I'm just going to add a little bit of speculation here. So Zulema is told by Chad that she was Lori's daughter in a previous life, but she died young at 14. She was essayed and then dismembered. Now, when we think about, and I hate to even say this, but, Tylee, they claim was dismembered and burned, and I feel like they don't know exactly her manner of death as far as, her actual cause. Like, was it the dismembering? Was she asphyxiated first, etc.? But just hearing about how Zulema describes Chad telling her about her past life, I really hope that nothing like that happened to Tylee before they did the dismembering and burning of her. Like, when they're talking about the essay aspect of Zulema's past life, like, Chad is just very sick. I started realizing, like I said last week, that he isn't just this fantasy writer. Like, he really has these sick thoughts that are, just part of him. It just seems like he enjoys coming up with these stories and telling these people about their past lives and what, him being a prophet and what Jesus is telling him. And it's just very sick. Yeah, exactly, Carol. And thanks for being here, House Huddle. Good to see you. And thank you again, Pizza Chemist. Everyone is thanking you for their membership. And I've even had people comment on my other live streams when you gifted them a membership, and they are thanking you in my comment section. So I hope you see them as well.
During this lunch, Lori made a diagram of how different creations are created and how many worlds there are and how many privations one person can have, and how people are either light or dark. And she made a diagram and showed how people progress towards lightness or towards darkness.
How did she know about light and dark?
I don't believe that she said how she was finding this information. I guess just assumed that it was coming from Chad, since he was the one that had given me my rating of light or dark.
Is it kind of like a scale?
Yeah, like a scale, yes.
Okay. And he had previously given you a rating on the light scale or on the dark scale?
Correct.
Okay.
This picture to me is just hilarious. It's like a paparazzi picture once they're in Hawaii. And it's like, Lori, why are you taking a picture? Like, what is going on in Lori's mind that she's like, I'm going to take a picture of them and document this? Like, your children are missing and they're coming after you and they're wondering where your children are. And she's over here taking a picture of them. But while I have it paused, thank you so much, Marshall Dove. Love your morning updates. ATS News, Amber Truth Seeker, one of my OG channels. Still love her. Thanks for the long, hard years keeping us in the know. Thank you for your support. I'm so glad you've been here that long, and you're definitely one of my OG subscribers. So thank you so much.
And then you were hearing similar things at this lunch with Lori.
Correct. She said that Charles Vallow, her husband, had been possessed by a dark spirit or demon.
Did she talk anything about, helping Charles at all with this situation?
She expressed how different he was. He was acting different. He was more organized than he was before, that he was a completely different person, that he even looked like he was shorter than he was before, that this evil spirit had been following him for a couple of years so that he could learn everything about him.
Yes, I agree with you, Midwest Mima. In my opinion, the crimes they have committed required them to be together. They fed each other's egos. Had they never met, none of this would have happened. I 100% agree. Like last week I was saying, Chad would have been happy just scamming people with his end of the world prophecies and books, etc. Lori might have gotten bored with Charles, like we've seen, and jumped on another guy if she never jumped on Chad, and she would have eventually had a fifth husband. But the fact that she did that with Chad, it was just the perfect storm. Carol says, of course, Zulema knew. She helped administer his death package, and that's why checked all day on him, sent son to find Alex. Yeah, that's the thing, is just like, what's her name? Melanie Gibb, aka Melanie Phibb. It does seem like there was, plenty of opportunity for Zulema to kind of be like, what are we actually doing again? Like, what do you mean by destroying the body? It's sad. It's really sad. It's really hard to imagine getting this wrapped up and believing this stuff and going along with it. I mean, to the point, like, Zulema got married to Alex and she literally kind of just met him. But she had done it because, a prophecy, aka Chad Daybell, said that it was meant to be, etc. And Lori, it's just crazy. Corey, I'm not sure how profitable his books were. I really don't know. I know that there are people who have read his books. So I need to dig more into what his life was like before he met Lori. I feel like we've done a lot of knowing about Lori beforehand and what led up to this. I'm assuming that the same thing will happen once Chad goes on trial too, which they are predicting probably won't be until next year. But, I had seen something in a Facebook group about this case, and it says, it's amazing to me that Chad and Lori are the only ones on trial for these crimes. So I thought that was something to think about, because it's not just, me or you guys in chat that are thinking like, what's going on here? Like, with these people like participating in these cast outs, etc., and casting out. That was never taught to them before meeting Chad and Lori. You know what I mean? Tommen says, did she meet Chad before Charles was unalived? Oh, yes. Yes. And thank you so much.
And now had possessed him. She didn't know at first that he was, that he had been changed, or he was a demon, that he had been possessed by a demon, and that she had slept with him twice, not knowing that he was possessed.
Did she ever talk to you about a way to help or deal with the demon?
Yes. Towards the end of March, Lori said that she wanted a group of us girls to meet and get together because she had some things to show us and teach us, and we had a meeting at my house. She also said that we needed to cast out the demon from Charles and asked us to do a casting on him.
Did Lori talk to you about a method or a tool to do a casting?
She said that we had to be holding hands and in a circle, and each of the participants would have different part to say or do.
Who assigned the roles in the casting?
Lori.
Who told people what tools or powers they were to use?
Lori.
What tools or energy did she ask you to use?
Fire. She would finish it by doing a sealing of the casting.
What did that mean?
I'm not sure how to explain it, but sealing would be like to make it concrete or make it final or make it valid or...
To kind of finish it and give it some authority?
Correct. Yeah, like that.
And who was the casting on?
This time was to cast out Garrett that had, that Lori had said that Charles had been possessed by. Lori always said that she had a connection with the 7-Eleven.
So I just have to pause it real quick. First off, Butterfly Kisses, thank you for the shout out and for the kind comments. I really appreciate it. I just think it's interesting here how she's describing how, well, first off, when they're talking about all the times that Lori had said, you know, Charles has changed, I think he's possessed, blah, blah, blah. Like that was sort of worked up for like a while. So the group was like told about this and like prepared for a cast out and all that stuff for like a while. And then she starts telling Zulema that she's always had a connection with the number 7-Eleven. And when I was editing this last night, my fiance was like, of course, he overhears these conversations. He's like, what is going on? Of course. But he says, no, Lori, you only had a connection with, or 7-Eleven only stands out to you because it's the gas station that you've driven by like a million times. Like that's why it's like ringing a bell when you see 7-Eleven. But about 7-Eleven too, it's if they were, to me, that just shows how premeditated this all was as far as Charles's death. They'd been telling the cult members that, you know, he was dark and evil spirit and things about him had changed, etc. He was even shorter than he was prior. And, you know, then she starts dropping in 7-Eleven to these cult members, like, you know, that number, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, you're just premeditating something. So by the time July comes around, you know, Alex Cox knew exactly what was going to happen that day. You know what I mean? Thank you, Tom N. Those weird things that keep happening around Mormon religion is the reason people avoid it. So many weird incidents over the years. I just don't even like to clump everything that Lori and Chad were doing into that religion because they just made up their own branch of whatever, hogwash, basically. So to me, this has nothing to, you know, the LDS church has even, I think everyone that was in this little circle, Melanie and all them, like they've been asked to like leave LDS church. They can come back, I guess, if they do certain things. But yeah, it's just, this has, I feel like people are going to link this to the LDS church. And it's like, yes, but they were their own like cult. And hello, SRB and everyone who has joined.
The number 7-Eleven, she would mention that number all the time as if it was some kind of, she had some kind of a spiritual connection with the with the number 711. And when she told me what had happened, she said that it was 711. Therefore, it had been all orchestrated by God. And she felt that because it was 711 and it was her numbers, that
Thank you, Caroline, for the birthday super chat. Appreciate it.
Charles or Hibla's had been delivered to them, to him, to her and Alex.
What did she say happened to Charles Vallow on July 11th?
You know, no weapons?
No weapons on me.
All right, come on out this way.
Yep.
I'm gonna have you have a seat right here on the curb.
Yep. Who else is in the house? No one else is in the house. Okay, just have a seat right there.
She said that Charles had rented a house and a house for her and the kids. And they had moved into this house, and he had come from out of town to pick up JJ that morning to take him to school, I believe. And while he was putting JJ in the car, Lori took his phone and he came back to get the phone, and she didn't want to give him the phone, so they started arguing about the phone, and Alex was there, and he got involved in the fight, and they started fighting. Alex said that he was trying to protect his sister, and then Tylee came into the middle of this fight with a baseball bat and telling Charles to leave, and that Charles had taken the bat away from Tylee, and that Charles had hit Alex on the back of the head with the bat, and Charles and Alex wrestled around fighting, and at one point Alex got his gun and he shot Charles.
Just went back to the living room. What is your problem?
They had to be free?
Correct.
Okay.
She had to be free.
So this little video clip, I added Zulema's audio and testimony speaking about what Lori specifically said about Tylee. But the visuals are actually a video that Tylee herself had put together. And she added music to it, but I didn't add the music because I didn't know if it was copywritten or whatever. But the song is like a techno, like very dancey, very jumpy, happy. And it's pretty much saying like, I want to run away with you. And it's her and her best friend here in Hawaii. So when they're speaking about Tylee here, I just wanted to let everyone know that these visuals were clipped by Tylee herself and made for her friend, I believe, and just for fun. But it's just very sad to see, you know, her happy and alive and full of life and so much left to live, while Zulema's describing how her own mother spoke about how, you know, her spirit needed to be free and etc. and turning dark and just the horrible manipulation that they were leading these cult members to.
When she said who is she?
Tylee.
Okay. And who said this to you? Is that what Lori said, that Tylee had to be free?
Correct.
Okay. Did she say where she was staying, where Tylee was actually staying?
When I tried to ask her what she meant by that, she lifted her hand and put it up to my face and said, "Don't ask."
So here's my thing also. So a mother is speaking to you about their teenage daughter and being dark and zombie and spirit needing to be free, or she needs to be free, all these weird things, right? And then when you ask them to clarify, they put their hand over your mouth and say, "Don't ask." I don't know about you guys, but like, I'm asking even more questions at that point. Like, what do you mean? Like, for one, like, please don't touch my face. But for two, what do you mean don't ask? Like, what are you saying? But instead, Zulema just like describes it as like, she put her hand over my mouth and said, don't ask. And then that was it. Like, what? It's all very confusing. Yeah, that's a good way to put it too. House Huddle says the whole cult mentality is intriguing, for a lack of better words.
Once the evil spirit is pushed out of a body, how do you destroy the body?
I don't know if there was a way to destroy the body. What this would depict would be that, since Lori and Chad were saying that every time that one demon was cast out, and then will leave that 2-minute window for another one to come in, then spiritually we needed to prevent from another demon to come in by doing certain things, such as putting water and fire and destroying the body in order to be able to, so that there will be no way that another demon could come in.
In order to make sure a demon doesn't come back, the body has to be destroyed in some way.
Correct.
Burning is one way.
Correct.
Destroying, does that mean, taking apart? Is that another way?
Correct.
Okay. Is there anything about binding?
I believe so.
Okay, what about binding the body?
I believe so, that there was one like that too.
I love you. Should I try to call you later?
I don't know. I don't know. We can try, yeah. I'll reach if I can.
Okay.
I love you, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, baby. I love you.
Okay. Love you. Good night.
And we know that that was the last time they spoke on the phone together. So let me just go through some of my notes while we're finishing up. Again, what are your guys' thoughts about everything that I'd clipped together there? So I'm just going to go through my notes and talk with you guys. So they asked Zulema if she believed her work on castings had any direct effect on the 2 children that died and the spouse that died. She said, not my work, but Chad and Lori's work did. It said that Lori was happy and smiling and chatting a few days ago in court. Again, I'm just reading off my notes. Lori told her, I believe Zulema, this is referring to, JJ was going to live a short life because he would come back as Colby's child. It said Lori joked about putting pills in Charles's water. So yeah, when she was speaking to the group about, casting him out and he'd been possessed, etc., apparently Zulema said that Lori said, but if it didn't work, she jokingly told her, could always put some pills in his water. So, if you're going to add that context to everything else that Zulema was hearing and stuff, it's like, I don't get why like red flags weren't raised much sooner. So Chad told them they all had gifts. Melanie's was being a gatherer. Zulema's was working with the elements. Serena's was being a powerful goddess. Alex was a warrior who was supposed to train other warriors. In December, Zulema recalls Alex being on the phone with Chad and Lori. They told him about Tammy's being exhumed. Alex said to her, I think I'm being their fall guy. Alex died the next day on 12/12/19. Alex was found laying in an upstairs bathroom in Zulema's home. The medical examiner says Alex Cox died of natural causes, a blood clot in his lung. So him realizing that he's the fall guy, at one point Zulema goes on and on about how, they were in close contact with Chad and Lori at first. And then, when things started falling apart, like the failed attempt on Tammy's life when Alex tried to shoot at her and she didn't pass, That was the night that Zulema said that she heard Lori on the phone, like very angry, like saying he can't do anything right. Lori told Zulema that Tammy was possessed by a demon and it was no longer her. She needed help casting the demon out of Tammy. She couldn't remember the name of the spirit. She asked if the name Viola sounds familiar. She said yes. She recalls Lori being on the phone that day using the words idiot and moron. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but like, this is almost like a movie. Like, just imagine the scene. Zulema's sitting there and she sees Lori freaking out on the phone. Come to find out, it was because her idiot moron brother failed some assassin attempt. Lori got off the phone and said, "Idiot can't do anything right by himself." Prosecutors believe Alex Cox shot at Tammy on October 9th, 2019, outside her home, but she didn't get hit at all. And was that where she was, or was he wearing one of those Halloween masks? Did we ever find out? I'm sorry if I missed it in chat. So Zulema was worried she wouldn't be able to find a job, but Lori told her not to worry about that. Melanie Bordeaux had enough for all of them. Melanie got $100,000 in the divorce from Brandon. By Halloween 2019, Zulema says she and Alex shared their first kiss at her house in Gilbert. On the next trip, Alex proposed to her. She said yes. She was asked if she saw JJ or Tylee. She said no. Chad and Lori were in Hawaii. They told Zulema they wanted her to move to Rexburg because it was her mission to help them build Zion. Oh, jeepers. I know, really, Delana, you can't make this up. Yeah, I don't understand, them. Didn't they say also, help me out, chat, that the day Alex died, didn't Chad didn't Chad visit them? I could be wrong there, so don't take that for 100%. Yeah, Chad looking so directly bamboonish. I thought this was a good visual to kind of like leave up on the screen while I read through the notes. It's just unbelievable. And isn't it crazy and kind of funny at the same time? On the right now, this is the body cam of the day that Charles was murdered. And Lori's got that face. And at this moment, she thinks that she's going to get life insurance money. Guess again. Lori told her, and I think this means Zulema, according to my notes, Tylee needed to be free. When asked what she meant, Lori put her hand over Zulema's face and said, "Don't ask." She said that JJ had been attacked by demons before moving to Rexburg. She said they were his spirits attacking JJ and going into his service dog, Bailey, because it's easier to attack a dog. Tylee had been attacked by a demon named Hillary. This was before JJ was last seen. Thank you for becoming a member, Elaine, too. So glad to have you here. Talking about how she would finance Rexburg, Lori told her she was getting SS benefits on behalf of Tylee Ryan, $4K in SS for JJ Vallow, as well as some SS benefits on behalf of Charles's death that is not the life insurance. Lori did not have a job. So Alex's cause of death was, they deemed it natural causes, and it was a blood clot in his lungs. I've seen a lot of people say that he had a heart attack or something with his heart, but apparently there was a blood clot in the lungs. I know, it's ridiculous. Lori told Zulema Charles moved to Texas because there were doctors there who helped keep bodies that are possessed of alive. What? See, these are some things that I am looking through and I'm like, how could anyone have believed this? Now, also at one point, doesn't Lori tell Zulema or Melanie that JJ was actually with Kay because Lori had cancer? So not only did the story bounce around that, JJ wasn't with Kay, then it turned into he was given to Kay because Lori had cancer. And my thing is, how did they believe that after Lori had also told them that, she's this goddess and translated being and she can't be killed and she can't die, but you can get cancer? Like, these are the points where, like, these people that were in this cult were testifying, and I'm like, and then you still, like, went along with this? It's crazy. We talked about that. Lori had told Zulema about financial difficulties with Charles. She also told her she got $65K from Joseph Ryan's life insurance. Joseph is her third husband and Tylee's dad. So she was sort of bragging about the benefits that she'd gotten in the past from Tylee's father. Still looking through. Pages printed from both Lori's iClouds. Defense tried to object to this, but was denied. First iCloud area codes connected with, and then it gives the codes. They recovered messages from that. Lori and Alex talked about Ned being gone. Lori hoped for it to happen March 9th, 2019, or the next day. Alex confirmed Ned is still alive. So these are messages between them that were recovered. The other iCloud account had text between Lori and Alex. Lori told him to stay close to her and Mel the next couple days. She can't go to Idaho. Lori to Chad, I just got a letter from insurance saying I'm not the beneficiary. It's a spear through my heart. She says that she suspects Kay is the new beneficiary. Chad says it would be interesting if it got changed after the 2 bullets in the chest. And that's the thing too with that text. If Chad just looks so damning, because if Chad had absolutely nothing to do with Charles's death, for him to so callously, a man of God by, mention, to describe Charles's death that way, it would be interesting if it got changed after the 2 bullets in the chest. It's just so cold and callous and clear as day that, okay, so you were involved with his death. Lori tells Chad the beneficiary was changed in March. Eventually, Chad tells her he sensed freedom is coming. Actually, Chad, it's the exact opposite of freedom. You're actually going to be handcuffed. Lori texted Zulema about the entity Hiplos, saying, let's put fire energy towards him, and asked her if she was ready. Zulema said yes. What? Do you guys want me to keep going with some of these notes, or would you like me to play a little bit of their text messages that were read and stuff like that? Like, some of them we've gone through already, but I could always play that instead of reading through these notes. Another thing too, in kind of reference to that, Corey, is it's amazing to me how Zulema and Melanie said that Chad and Lori told them that they couldn't get divorced from their spouses because they would lose their standing with God. But it's like they justified all this other stuff. Yeah, exactly. Allison said, I guess they skipped over thou shall not. Exactly. So what do you guys want me to do? I might switch up the screen and kind of reference these notes while they read through those text messages and emails. How about that? Give me a second to change the screen. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the members and for those who have sent a super chat and all that. I really appreciate your support. I'm just pulling up the text messages and emails between them. It's probably going to have an ad, so give me a second.
I do.
Okay, let's.
And do you recall what email this was associated with?
This was an email associated with kkwalker75@yahoo.com.
Was a copy of this located on Charles Vallow's device?
Yes, it was.
Could you read that for the jury?
Could it be possible to have a hard copy to look at?
If the court will allow it, I do have a hard copy available.
Yes, that's fine as long.
All right. So hello, Alex Erickson, and I saw Jen Liu in here as well. They have great channels. Jen Liu's is the Ward Studies. Is that right? I want to make sure because I always call you Jen Liu, so I just want to make sure I get your channel. Yes, the Ward Case Studies. And Alex Erickson, they're both covering this trial as well as the Letitia Stout trial. So check them out. And if you're following Letitia, definitely check out CDT also. She has good highlights and recaps. So these were the text messages between them. Now, the blessing for Alex that was given to Alex from Chad, I'm not going to play that audio. It's super, super creepy and just paints Chad is so evil to me. But pretty much that's the audio that you can hear Alex Cox crying in. Chad says, "We will give Alex Lamar Cox a patriarchal blessing. You are a member of the house of Israel, and of the 12 tribes, you are a descendant of Joseph." He talks about opening the portals of time and going back to Alex's previous creations. He sees Alex in his third creation as a villain warrior, always seeking to do what is right. You were always right beside her. You were born into a family that needed you desperately. It sounds like Chad Daybell is crying in this audio, as well as Alex. You'll be a powerful servant. I bless you with that knowledge that you will now move forward as a true warrior. Powerful goddesses were needed to be protected. It said the blessing is about 15 minutes. Chad is still crying on the audio, and Alex. This was before Alex shot Charles. So he's kind of amping Alex up to, you need to protect your sister. Now, when we're talking about premeditation, not only are we referring to that 7-Eleven number that Lori was telling the members was so meaningful to her and she didn't know why, and those numbers spoke to her. Now we're, add that to this blessing where Chad is telling Alex that you're meant to protect the goddesses on earth. And, we all know that Lori is referred to that. So this is all just part of the manipulation and the premeditation.
As long as it comports with what's being displayed on the screen.
And I will indicate for the record, the printout that the detective is being handed was printed directly from the PowerPoint.
Okay, with that in mind then, and obviously we can follow along with what's on the screen. I'll allow him to have that printed copy and review from that.
It was
So the email reads as follows. Hello, Chad. I hope you are doing well. This is Charles Vallow from Arizona. We really enjoyed having you stay with us back in November when you came to the Preparing the People conference. I appreciated you taking the time to talk to me about the book I've been working on. Well, more than 6 months later, I still haven't made much progress on it, but I feel an urgency to get it done. As the managing partner of Right Planning Group, I'm going to have the opportunity to speak at various conventions beginning in the fall, but everyone says I need to have a book available that summarizes my life and shares the principles I follow. So I will cut to the chase. I'm willing to pay you well to help me get this book into shape as a ghostwriter. I really liked your autobiography and the tone you took in sharing experiences with.
So this is the fake email that Lori sends to Chad pretending to be Charles.
Without preaching. Is there any way you could come here for a couple of days and help me get the book underway? I feel talking in person would be much more valuable than a phone call or video chat, mainly because I would like you to read through some of my journals and explain to me how the publishing industry works. It would help me know whether I truly have a book in me and whether you want to team up on it. I played minor league baseball and have had plenty of stories that my audience could relate to, along with the knowledge I've gained running my own company. So I do feel the book would contain valuable information even beyond the convention circuit. I'm out of town until Sunday, but I would gladly fly you down here early next week before the holiday and cover your expenses. You can stay at our guest room like before, or in a hotel if you prefer. I hate to take you away from your family, but I know this book is vital to my speaking success. I understand if you don't want to take part in the project, but I would definitely make it worth your time. With admiration, Charles.
And you indicate this came from an email, kkwalker75@yahoo.com.
That is correct.
Did you do any kind of investigation to try to determine who the owner of that account was?
So I authored a search warrant to Yahoo. I was able to obtain the subscriber information for this account of kkwalker75@yahoo.com. The name associated with the account was Karen Walker. The IP address, or the internet provider address associated with the account, came back to Katy, an area of Katy, Texas. Also, the phone number associated with the account came back to Lorivallow. The date of birth on the account came back to a variation of Lorivallow's date of birth.
Was there any indication that this email account was linked to Charles Vallow?
There is no indication.
In going through Charles' phone further, did you locate anything regarding whether or not Charles actually sent that email?
There's nothing to indicate that Charles sent this email.
So like we said, that was the fake email that Lori created, pretending to be Charles. And just looking at my notes, referring to the day that Charles was killed, the detective that, or the police officer that went to the screen was on the stand, and he was asked if he observed the body. Duncan says yes, and I'm assuming that's the officer's name. He describes a large living room with wood flooring, but the room is empty. Charles is on his back in two .45 caliber shell casings next to the body. He had a gunshot wound in the left quadrant of his abdomen and some blood in his left hand. Not much more blood was visible. No blood splatter, no trail. Alex reported self-defense. He said he shot him twice in the chest while Charles was standing and then gave him CPR. Duncan states if he gave him CPR, there would have been more blood. Based on the house, it was hard to tell if there was a struggle. Charles had some abrasions on his knees, and there was blood in the sink. Alex said he washed his hands. When police cleaned blood off the floor, he noticed an indentation or marking under where Charles' shoulder would be. Trajectory shows Charles was laying on the ground when the second shot was fired.
To or from his device, KK Walker. However, he did forward this email to Adam, Lori's brother, as well as discuss the email with Lori through text messages.
So in this note, it says, Lori learned Tammy died from other people. When asked what happened, Lori says a dark entity entered Tammy and was in Tammy, and they did what they had to do to get her out of it, or get it out of her. Lori believed Tammy was dark for 2 weeks before she died, and that Tammy was suspicious of the affair between Lori and Chad. So right around, strange timing for her to die, right around the time that she becomes suspicious. A quote from Lorivallow, I promise you have done nothing wrong in this case. Blake enters exhibit, a phone call between Melanie, Lori, and Chad, and that's the one we played earlier in the stream. If you guys want to refer to that, I have the actual audio, but it's pretty much where Lori is telling Melanie that JJ is safe and he's happy.
Page there.
Yes.
Are these some of the messages that you were referring to?
Yes. Charles had discovered this email on June 29th of 2019. He then forwarded it to Adam and then confronted Lori about this email that was sent. Based on my observations of Charles's email or his accounts that were analyzed, like I said, there's no indication that this came from Charles' account, was created by Charles or sent to Chad. To the best of my knowledge, looking through Charles's information, he had no relationship with Chad Daybell at all.
And if you could, would you read the messages on those and just indicate who they were coming to and going,
Yes.
they were being sent to?
The first one is Charles to Lori. It was time-stamped June 29th, 2019 at 5:51 a.m. The UTC is a universal coordinated time, and the -7 is done to show that that would be Arizona time. So at 5:51 on June 29th, 2019, it says, "Is he with whom you're having an affair? He did not stay with us in Arizona in November. Who are you lying to now? Trying to destroy another family? You're evil, period. I may take JJ back to Houston unless you have a great explanation for all of this. I will not let him be a party to your apostasy." Charles to Lori again at 6:04 a.m. "Just so you know, I have Tammy's, Chad's wife's, email address. I will send a copy of my email you sent to KK Walker. Tammy will know what you're up to. You better explain." Charles to Lori at 6:10. "I now have Tammy Daybell's cell number. I'll text her a copy of the letter and an explanation of what you're up to. You have till noon your time to explain, or I'm sending via text and email to her." At 6:55, Charles sends Lori a message. "I'm sure you are up by now. You have until 10 a.m. your time to respond, or I send the emails and texts to Tammy." Charles to Lori at 12:23 p.m. "Just so you and Chad know, I am going to talk to Tammy. In person if I have to. I've already emailed and texted her. Your game is up." Charles to Lori at 5:04 p.m. "Please stop spending money on the credit cards. I appreciate it." I was in looking at Charles' phone extractions, was able to determine that 2 emails were sent to Tammy Daybell, one to her personal email and also one to her work email.
Your Honor, I apologize. I'm having trouble hearing counsel. If you just move the mic a little bit closer.
I had actually muted it, so I apologize. Thank you for saying that. Looking at that next page there, are those the emails that you were referring to?
Yes, they are.
And would you read those into the record?
The email from Charles Vallow to Tammy Daybell at the tdaybell@sugarsalem.com would be her work email on June 29, 2019 at 9:16. "Tammy, my name is Charles Vallow. I have some vital and disturbing information regarding your husband and my wife, Lori. This is your work email, so I'll wait to send you the evidence that is very disturbing. You may call or email me from the address where you can receive the information. I apologize to be the one sending this, but something has to be done. I feel it's best if I shed some light on this issue. Regards, Charles Vallow." And he provides the phone number of 714-853-5005. He sends a second email from his Charles at Right Planning Group email address to tammy.daybell@gmail.com on June 30th at 2019 at 10:16 a.m. The subject line of the email is "Your husband and my wife," and the body of the email reading, "Are having an affair. Her name is Lorivallow. I've got definitive proof if you care to see it. Contact me and I'll share it with you. It's devastating, I know, but the truth needs to be shown. Charles Vallow."
And from your review of the device, were you able to determine whether or not Tammy Daybell would have actually read these emails?
I did contact at least Sugar Salem School District and asked if those were read. There was no indication that they were. They said they could have been deleted, read and deleted, or just deleted, but there's no indication. They do show on Chad's part to be sent, though.
And you said Chad's part.
I'm sorry, on Charles's part. Apologies.
Were you able to determine whether or not there was any communication from Charles Vallow to Chad Daybell?
Yes, on the 29th of June, 2009. The PowerPoint actually is 209, should be 2009 at 9:32 a.m. Charles sends Chad Daybell a message at chad.daybell@gmail.com. The message reads, "Chad, I'm Lori's husband, but I gathered you already knew this. She sent an email yesterday, supposedly written by me to KK Walker, inviting you to Arizona next week and to ghostwrite a book I'm supposed to be working on, or supposedly working on. It's preposterous. I happened to run across it as she left her computer at our Houston home. I am not paying anybody for anything and I'm not writing a book. Either you or Lori need to tell me what's going on, or this will be exposed for all to see. Regards, Charles Vallow." And again, leaves the number 714-853-5005.
Does anyone else think that that is one of the most kind, like, yeah, exactly, Carol. Charles was pure class till the end. I mean, who I've never seen a more polite confrontation of the other man than that email. It's just, he was way too good for Lori.
Goes on to read, and does your wife know you have several of Lori's dance videos? Explain how that is any way appropriate. She sent them to you at your request in January. Charles.
Were you able to locate any response from Chad Daybell to Charles' email?
There was no response.
Ramadan looks different around the world.
So Lori moving to Idaho was in August 2019. And Melanie went to visit her best friend around that time. When she asked Lori about Tylee, she said Tylee was at BYU, Idaho with friends, but didn't talk about her much and had put her stuff in storage. So she saw JJ at the home. Lori told her his speech was more intelligent and he said he loved Satan, that he would climb the fridge. Melanie saw a typical 7-year-old boy. However, on one day, JJ was having a rough time and was acting out. Chad took him to the bedroom, and when he had come down, he had a red mark on his neck and said that JJ did it. He scratched him. At this point, Tammy is still alive. Melanie never visited after September 2019, but stayed in close contact. Before JJ passed away, Lori had said he was difficult to handle and that it was hard to deal with and be with Chad. So clearly, JJ's getting in the way of their little romantic rendezvous and, cult activity. Melanie was asked if Chad and Lori would meet up with Charles when Charles was alive. She said yes. She knows they met once at a hotel, a few times at the temple. They were intimate, but Lori said it was okay because it was God's will. Lori had 2 cell phones, maybe 3, but one was only for Chad.
Messages from Charles to Lori.
Yes, there were many messages between Charles and Lori on the 29th, arguing about this particular letter that was sent.
Do you also recall the next slide locating that message on the phone?
Yes, I do.
And could you read that message?
The message from Charles to Lori on June 30th. I believe that should be 2019 of 0842. Lori, I know you don't care how I feel, but just imagine this. How could my actions or breaking your heart result in what you've done? You accuse me of infidelity, but it's you who have been having an affair. It just keeps killing me. Maybe that's your goal. How can you live with yourself destroying our life, Mel and Brandon's?
And how foreshadowing is this text message from Charles to Lori? It keeps killing me. Maybe that's your goal. It's like something was telling Charles for so long. I mean, months leading up to his own death. Like something's coming for you, and it has to do with Lori. I mean, he did everything he could to get her help. And it's crazy, that one line of him saying, like, it just keeps killing me. Maybe that's your goal.
Probably Mel and Brandon too. Now add Chad Daybell family, and you've got a home run. The fact you will continue to go to the temple after all you've done shocks me. There really is something wrong with you. I really don't want to do what I have to do, but you have to be exposed for what you really are. You won't even deny it or talk to me as to your reasons. That's what's amazing to me. You could ally some of what's about to happen, but I don't think you will. Lying has become second nature to you. You have been impressive in blaming me for all that's happened. You have destroyed me. I've never been lower in my life. It's you that has done it. Please tell me why, please. I will slow or minimize what's about to happen. It's you who has caused it. We have a son to raise, but that's all we have in common. I will work with you in his best interest and will be there Monday evening. You owe me an apology for all the false accusations you've made. You know, I've been entirely faithful to you since the first day we met. I deserve an apology from you. Please respect that much.
And you indicated that message when you located it would have been sent on June 30th of 2019.
Correct.
Now, this note is interesting. And thank you so much, J-Dubs, for the compliment. Just love your channel and mods. I love the mods too. Everyone in my chat and in my community is just awesome. So thank you so much. And I really appreciate the super chat. So this note says, Lori told Melanie she had a dream Charles and JJ had been in a car accident and wouldn't come home by January 31st. When Charles didn't get into an accident, Melanie asked her about this, and Lori said Satan interfered with the plan. Around the same time, she also told her Chad believed Charles was now a dark spirit.
From your review of Charles' phone, did he appear to be trying to work on his relationship with Lori?
In reviewing Charles's phone, there was a lot of obviously frustration and anger that he would start with, but then he would come back to a loving, gentle side and wanting to work things out and be more reasonable. He would.
Was Lori always responsive to his messages?
Not always. In this particular case, there was no, I didn't see any denial or acceptance of the particular email that was sent, but they would still converse with each other.
And looking at the next page there, are those also additional messages that were located?
Yes, the additional messages going into July 1st, 2019 at 10:31. Charles to Lori, I'm going to Idaho first to meet with Tammy Daybell. Lori responds to Charles a minute later. She won't see you. She is my friend. She won't listen to you. Go ahead. You are ridiculous. Are you coming to JJ for the 4th or not? Charles responded to Lori July 1st, 2019 at 10:37. Then you tell me why you use my name and fictitious email to send a BS email about a book I am having him ghostwrite for me. It's fraud and a lie. There's no reason for it other than to get him in Arizona and have an excuse for his wife. Charles to Lori, July 1st at 10:38. You did this. I had nothing to do with it, and you know it. Also, he did not stay with us in November. I will find out.
And remember, for those who have seen the Netflix documentary on this, you know, her son, Colby Ryan, her oldest, is in there, and he's describing, you know, Charles kind of finding this stuff out and how he was reaching out to Lori's family, including him, and like sending him emails like, your mother is cheating on me. Like, I found this, I found that. But at the same time, Lori was telling everyone, like, don't listen to Charles. He's crazy. He's this or that. And, you know, so Colby Ryan is in the middle, and he's like, I don't know who to believe. And he admits in the documentary that, you know, he was under the impression that he just didn't know if he could believe what Charles was saying, because he had already been kind of manipulated and brainwashed by Lori prior to, you know, she had warned everyone like, oh, he's, you know, losing it, or, you know, she had let them know, like, don't take it serious. And hello, Duty Ron. So happy you're here. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate you in chat and listening. So Lori told Melanie she had a dream Charles. Oh, wait, hold on. Read that part. It said Chad told Lori they had been married several times in their past lives. Lori had believed this and said they were married about 5 different times in different lives. Lori also believed she was married to a prophet called Moroni in past lives. Melanie recalls a weekend in Arizona, Lori told her Chad and her met up in the LDS temple, specifically the waiting room. Moroni and what they think was possibly Jesus Christ showed up and told them they were sealed together. Sealed meaning they were together for eternity. Lori felt her and Chad were leaders of the 144,000 and that's their Bible reference. They brought up the trip to Utah. Melanie said it was with 5 to 6 women. Melanie said there was an attraction from the beginning.
It's impossible to explain this relationship.
And I am sort of laughing a little bit as I'm like doing the quotes for them, because it's just, it's mock worthy in a way. Just the cult stuff is mock worthy.
And those messages are sent on July 1st of 2019.
That is correct.
And when did you respond to the report of a shooting?
We responded to the report of the shooting on July 11th of 2019.
And just to remind the jury from yesterday, when you arrived, Charles Vallow was in fact deceased.
Yes, he was.
Looking at that next page, did you also locate those messages on Charles' device?
We did, yes.
And can you read those messages?
This would be the July 11th, 2019, shortly before the murder of Charles Vallow. At between 7:35 and 7:37 in the morning, Charles sent Adam Cox a message that says, "Al is here." Adam responded, "At Lori's." Adam then states, "Really? I wonder why he never called me back." Adam said, "They are planning something." Charles responded, "Absolutely." Adam then responds, "I was supposed to spend the night at his house last night. She probably blocked that." And then Charles responded, "What you do is up to you."
After that message, are there any other messages from Charles to anyone?
After that message, there are no other messages. There are messages sent to the phone, but nothing was read by Charles at that point.
And those messages took place on July 11th, 2019, between 7:35 a.m. and 7:37 a.m.?
Correct. And in addition, Charles' phone had his location services on, and the location.
No, I'm going to object. This is non-responsive to the question. He's adding. Thank you.
Were you able to determine anything else from Charles Vallow's phone?
Yes.
And what was that?
Charles had his location services on, and the location of that device at the time those messages were sent was at the 5531 South Four Peaks Place in Chandler, where the homicide took place.
Your Honor, I would next go to what has been marked as State's Exhibit 48. And I believe both counsel and the court have a copy. And Your Honor, would you like the jump drive marked with an exhibit sticker as well to match the paper printout?
I think that would be helpful, yes.
You're welcome. All right, guys, I think that's where I want to end things. There is obviously more of that if you guys want to watch the rest of those texts and emails. I can link the full video in the description box. Thank you so much for following the highlights with me for the first week in this stream today. I really appreciate you guys being here. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'm just going to do the same format, I think, for this week in trial. So I'll obviously be taking notes and collecting audio and any visuals that I can, pair it with, referencing back to other visuals that we've had in the case leading up to the trial. All of that, I think I'm just going to do in the same format as today. So I really appreciate everyone who sent super chats and for becoming new members. Thank you, Duty Ron. I really appreciate you being a member here. It's an honor to have you green. So thank you so much. Hello, everyone else who joined, Jesse and everybody else who's been here. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon. And yeah, I'll just be taking notes. I'll post stuff to my community page during the week as well. If you're not in my Facebook group, I've got a few of them. I'll link them in the description box. Also, we kind of talk about other cases in the Facebook group too. So if we don't cover a case here on my channel, we're likely discussing it or referencing it in the Facebook group. So it's just a different format to kind of discuss true crime. So I really believe that we're going to get justice for the victims in this case. I think that the evidence is just mounting day by day. It's just overwhelming in a way. Towards guilt. Now, she would serve the rest of her life in prison, even if she was convicted of like the conspiracy to these murders. So it's up to the jury to decide, was she directly involved? What level of involvement will they have her on? But also the fact is, much like JJ's grandparents have stated, like they have faith in everything that's been laid out. The prosecution has been very organized here. Now, kind of comparing it to the prosecution in the Murdaugh trial, I believe that this Idaho state prosecution team is very much more on point as far as, you know, the quickness in between everything. But they both are doing great, obviously, because Alex is now in prison. But I just have noticed a little bit of more organization. I don't know how you guys are feeling if you guys followed the Murdaugh trial also, but the state is just on point, and they've had enough time to prepare, that's for sure. So we will talk very soon. Again, I can't thank everybody enough for being in chat. Alex Erickson, Duty Ron, the Ward case studies, and just everybody else. Thank you so much. The Evil CJ show, check all them out. My moderators, most of them have channels themselves. So we'll talk soon, guys. And yeah, brace yourself for another week of this trial, because it's just mind bending, and you almost have to take a break, like as you're listening, because it's just like, whoa, you're in a different world, a fantasy for sure. And it's sad. It once you weave through all this fantasy and like what's going on, they believed that, like what, you know, we see that there is these victims here and these children, and they were wrapped up and in the middle of all this chaos and craziness, and it's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. There's no other word for it. So we'll talk soon. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.